And a very happy day, ladies and gentlemen. Tim Burgess with Maximizing Results with Think and Grow Rich. And today I want to talk about the chapter on faith. Now, I had that all mixed up. When I first saw this book and I saw that title to this chapter, I was like, oh my gosh, why am I in church and I'm not religion? And I'm not saying there's anything bad with that. That's not what I wanted the book for. And then I got to reading, and the faith he's talking about is the faith you and I get to develop in ourselves. We develop faith in our ability to pull off our desire. We just came out of the chapter on desire, remember? 6 steps in desire. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't seen those videos on desire, please go watch those right away. Especially part 2, which is where we go through the 6 steps. And hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button right away. Do that right now if you would. That way you'll be notified of all of the new videos that we put up. You'll be notified of everything that's going on, what we're doing. So please take care of that right away. And once again, if you haven't watched Desire Part 2, please go watch that. Do the 6 steps. Don't just know this book, ladies and gentlemen. Don't just know it. Do it. Because if you do it, your results 12 months down the road, it'll just astound you. It really will. So this chapter is entitled Faith. It's titled Faith. He says faith is the visualization of and belief in attainment of desire. Faith is visualization of, see it, visualization of and belief in attainment of desire. So this faith that he's talking about in this chapter isn't attached to the religion that I was, kind of forced to grow up with. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with religion. Once again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all. But that's not what Napoleon Hill is talking about in this chapter. And it took me a while to differentiate this and get this thing right in my mind. So I want to help you do that right away. He says faith is the head chemist of the mind. He says when faith is blended with the vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translates it into its spiritual equivalent, and then transmits it to infinite intelligence, as in the case of prayer. So we pray. I know people pray all the time, and I get it, man. I do too. But are we praying with the right vibration of thought? That's the question. Love and faith are psychic, related to the spiritual side of us. He talks about how the emotions of faith, love, and sex are the most powerful of the positive emotions. Well, right there he threw me a massive curveball when I started reading this book. He talked about the emotions of faith. I get that. That's an emotion, a feeling. The emotions of love. I get that. That's a feeling. And then the emotions of sex. I thought that was a physical act. Oh, the emotion of sex. Stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button. When we get to chapter 11, we'll really open your eyes around that subject. But let us please continue here on the chapter on faith. How to develop faith. This is the most interesting part of this book this chapter, in my opinion. Because he says how to develop faith where faith does not already exist. How do we do that? See, ladies and gentlemen, you probably wrote down a pretty audacious goal. You probably wrote down something that, it certainly goes beyond just getting a new refrigerator. Or at least I hope. Okay, that's my desire for you. You wrote down something that's going to stretch you out. Well, in the beginning, when you first start, you probably don't have the faith in your own ability to do that. Now, in your mind, you might go, oh, I know I can do it. Okay, I'll ask you to do this then. Put your ego down. If you already knew how to do it, and you already had the faith that you could do it, and all that, you would have already done it. Okay, this is simple stuff. It's not hard. So he talks about how to develop faith where faith does not already exist. And he says this: there comes now a statement which will give a better understanding of the importance of the principle of let's start this over. There comes now a statement which will give a better understanding of the importance the principle of auto-suggestion assumes in the transmutation of desire into its physical or monetary equivalent. Namely, faith is a state of mind which may be induced or created by affirmation or repeated instructions to the subconscious mind through the principle of auto-suggestion. Right here, I'd like to let's give this auto-suggestion principle a new name and call it self-suggestion on purpose by design. As we go through the book, I'll use that term more, and I firmly believe with every cell in my being that Napoleon Hill would change this and differentiate between self-suggestion and auto-suggestion. See, we believe auto-suggestion is what's going on in the background, whether you're thinking about it or not, man. We're always talking to ourselves about something. It's happening automatically. Self-suggestion is when you pick up your piece of paper that you wrote down from the 6 steps and you actually read it. You're suggesting to self what you want. So I really believe, I truly do with every cell of my being, that Napoleon Hill would differentiate these two. So I'm going to call this self-suggestion. So faith is a state of mind which may be induced or created. So you and I can induce or create this state of mind by affirmation or repeated instructions to the subconscious mind through the principle of self-suggestion. Now, if I may, can I take us through an analogy that absolutely brings this to fruition and brings total validity to what Napoleon Hill is talking about? Total validity. I want to ask you a question. What is 5 plus 5? And what is 5 times 5? Now, my bet is you knew the answers to those questions immediately without even thinking about it. My bet is also that you have 1,000,000% faith that you have the correct answer. And your ability to answer that question is absolutely, you have total faith in it. Well, how did you get that much faith in your ability to answer those questions so quickly without thinking about it and absolutely know that you're right? Wasn't it repeated affirmation of instructions? Didn't you go to math class 5 days a week, 9 months a year, 12 years? Haven't you used math over and over again? If I were to say, what is 7 times 7? You knew immediately once again. Where is the level of your faith in your ability to answer that question? So when he says repeated or affirmation of repeated instructions to the subconscious mind through the principle of self-suggestion, math class, total validity. He says as an illustration, as we continue on, consider the purpose for which you are presumably reading this book. The object is to acquire the ability to transmute the intangible thought impulse of desire into its physical counterpart, money or whatever else it may be. He says by following the instructions laid down in the chapters on auto-suggestion, self-suggestion, and the subconscious mind, summarized in the chapter on self-suggestion, you may convince the subconscious mind that you believe you will receive that for which you ask. And it will act upon that belief, which your subconscious mind passes back to you in the form of faith, followed by definite plans for procuring that which you desire. That's the whole point and why it's so important for us to follow the 6th step. Read it out loud every day, every morning, every night, every morning, every night. Do it over and over again. And here's my story. There it is, man. Just keep it close to you. It says the method by which one develops faith where it does not already exist is extremely difficult to describe. Almost as difficult, in fact, as it would be to describe the color of red to a blind man who has never seen color and has nothing with which to compare what you describe to him. He says faith is a state of mind which you may develop at will. Faith is a state of mind which you may develop at will. You can do this. Develop the faith in your own ability to go pull off what it is you want. He says repetition of affirmation of orders to the subconscious mind is the only known method of voluntary development of the emotion of faith. How else could we possibly develop faith in our own ability? Unless it was repetition of affirmation of orders to the subconscious mind. To me, it is so simple, especially when we use the analogy from math class. Anything that we have repeated over and over again, we have faith that we know the answer. If I were to ask you that 5 times 5 thing, okay, you know the answer right away. But what if I were to ask you how many soldiers were in the Revolutionary War? You go, huh? Well, if you're in America, you studied that. If you went through the American school system, you studied that. But you don't know. How many soldiers were in the War of 1812? You probably studied that one too. But you don't know. Why? You looked at it one time. You studied the material enough to put it in here so you could puke it out on a test. And after you puked it out on a test, you didn't need it anymore. So we learned to memorize to forget? Huh, that's kind of silly. Yeah. So, let's continue in the book. I get off on little tangents, don't we? He says, perhaps the meaning may be made clearer, the meaning of how we create faith, through the following explanation as to the way men sometimes become criminals. He says, when men first come into contact with crime, they abhor it. If they remain in contact in crime for a time, they become accustomed to it and endure it. If they remain in contact with it for long enough, they finally embrace it and become influenced by it. Says this is the equivalent of saying that any impulsive thought which is repeatedly passed onto the subconscious mind is finally accepted and acted upon by the subconscious mind, which proceeds to translate that impulse into its physical equivalent by the most practical procedure available. So if you impress upon the subconscious mind over and over again, repeatedly, over and over and over again, your desire for money, your desire for fill in the blank, over and over again, that's what will happen. The most practical procedure available will be brought to you. Now you can't just sit around on your butt waiting for, wait a minute, I'm going to sit down and go, I'm just going to think my stuff, and I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to think it a little bit longer. Wait a minute, it hasn't happened yet, Joe. I'm going to do it a little harder. Oh, that's right. Inspired intelligent action has to come into play somewhere. So you can open up the pathway for infinite intelligence to bring you the message. However, then intelligent action must be taken. People take action every day. However, is it intelligent action to move them in the direction they truly want to go? It's not a hard question. It's not a difficult chapter. It's so simple when we stop and think about it. He says, in connection with this, consider again the statement, all thoughts which have been emotionalized and mixed with faith begin immediately to translate themselves into their physical equivalent or counterpart. You ever notice if somebody gets really worked up about something nasty and negative going on in life, nasty, and they get all worked up, man, they're telling everybody about it, all worked up, nasty and negative, they have a flat tire. And you talk to them about the law of vibration, how they brought that to themselves. I did not. I was not thinking of a flat tire. I didn't bring that to myself. Okay. I'm not here to argue with anybody, but it's pretty obvious what's happening. It depends. Anything that we emotionalize and give feeling to, we're bringing to ourselves. I mean, every success principle book on the planet has told us that. Whatever you believe, you bring upon yourself. And I know we've heard that. Those aren't the exact words, but that's what it says. It says the emotions or the feeling portion of thoughts are the factors which give thoughts vitality, life, and action. See, thoughts in and of themselves are nothing. He'll get into that too. The emotions of faith, love, and sex, when mixed with any thought impulse, give it greater action than any of these emotions can do by themselves. He says not only thought impulses which have been mixed with faith, but those which have been mixed with any of the positive emotions or any of the negative emotions may reach and influence the subconscious mind. He says from this statement you will understand that the subconscious mind will translate into its physical equivalent a thought impulse of a negative or destructive nature just as readily as it will act upon thoughts of a positive or constructive nature. He talks about how this accounts for the strange phenomenon which so many people, so many millions of people experience, referred to as misfortune or bad luck. How many people out there live their lives under a misfortune and bad luck mentality? Please get out of that. They're the creators of their own misfortune. They're creators of their own bad luck. Make no mistake, folks, with this process, with this thought process, we are creating the very life we're living today, whether we know it or not. With the dominating thoughts that are in your conscious mind right here, that are impressed upon the subconscious, that ultimately work through the body as a feeling and then into an action. It's the dominating thoughts on the mind that ultimately produce the results that we get. Now, there's a lot of arguments set up for that and everything else, but just follow this. If you'll just do this, do me a favor, just do what Napoleon is asking us to do until we can prove him wrong. And if we can't prove him wrong, then we might as well keep doing it. And I really believe that the only thing that you'll do is prove him right, if you'll follow his advice and do exactly what he's asking you to do. So remember the 6 steps. Step 1, what do you want? Step 2, what are you giving in return? Step 3, what's the time limit? Step 4, create a plan and begin at once whether you're ready or not. Step 5, write it all in a clear, concise statement. And step 6, read that statement out loud every morning when you get up and every evening before you go to bed. As you read, see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of that which you desire. See and feel and believe. Isn't that what he's telling us in this chapter as well? Then we develop faith in our own ability to bring the opportunities into our lives that we can take intelligent action on to produce the results we want. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not rocket science. This is simple stuff. We tie it all together and it's exactly how we learned math. It's no different. And you have 1,000,000% faith that you can answer the question, what is 5 times 5 or 7 times 7 or 10 times 10? And the only way you have that much faith is you repetitively impress it upon your subconscious mind over and over and over and over and over and over again through the principle of self-suggestion. So what if we did that same concept, the same process with your goal? What would happen? Well, I think we all know what will happen. Do me a favor, push the subscribe button. Do that right away. Hit the like button. Share this video. You'll see us out on Facebook. Please go out and leave a comment. And we greatly appreciate you doing that. We'll have part 2 available in the next day or so. Please return and watch that video as well. This chapter and the next chapter and the previous chapter, desire, faith, self-suggestion. We're building the foundation of a phenomenal life that is just full of love and full of faith, full of passion, and it's total fulfillment. So push the button right away. As always, I want to thank Joe. Joe, thank you so much for doing what you do, my friend. Without Joe, we wouldn't be here today. So everybody say thanks to Joe. Thank you, Joe. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, today, this day, right now, we desire for this to be the very best day you've ever experienced in this game we call life. Yesterday doesn't matter. It's over. It's history. We can learn from it, but we can't do anything to change it. Tomorrow isn't here yet. We can plan for it, and we can get better to live it. But right now, this day is the day that we have. So let's allow it to be the best one we've ever experienced. Tonight, when you put your head on a pillow, please do so with a mind full of peace. Remember, calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. And may God bless each and every one of you. Have a fabulous day.